Hey Sharon, outside the house right now, just leaving for the walk. Yeah, I've been running this week, and it's been great, but I also notice that with the more strenuous exercises, I am a lot more prone to injury, like anybody else, you know. But on like Tuesday, I went on I ran 5K, and I came back and I had a raised abrasion in like the left inner thigh, kind of along my balls, and it was painful for sure. It was red and raw. It was only like 2 inches long, but it was definitely noticeable because it's right where the thighs met. And I had run 3 days in a row already, so I said, let's just like slow down, a bit. So good morning. It is like 7:50 a.m. out here in Vegas, and it is ice cold and windy. Maybe not ice, but it's like in the 40s or 50s. Definitely feeling like in the 30s with all the wind we've got. But I've got the Seattle Aquarium hoodie on. It was a great hoodie, but it was like $50 or like $80. Like, it was insane. It feels great though. It's really good quality. So, support nonprofits. I don't even know if they're nonprofit. When you sent me the video yesterday, Sharon, I was sleeping, of course. It was like 5 in the morning when you had sent that. But it like really amazed me. I didn't expect such a quick reaction. But, I had shared that video because I really was curious about how you'd feel, especially about some of the messaging and the personal experiences that were shared by that YouTuber and kind of how they affected him. But yeah, I literally was like 12:30 about to get out of bed. 12:30 p.m. I was about to get out of bed and go on my walk, and then right as I was getting out of bed to go be productive for the day, my job called and was like, hey, you're on call and we need you to come in, so you're coming in. And I was like, all right. And I worked late, had a band session after work, got home at like 1:30 a.m. So yeah, I wasn't able to send any video, but I really wanted to send my stats, kind of just to share what I hadn't really shared with you on Tuesday, which was that I had this 10-mile goal for the day. Got construction going on. Super fun. Same thing every day. Every day. There's always something. But yeah, I had it really shared with the video that I kind of started this exercise journey as well, where I've been running a lot more, and the things that I've agreed to with myself. So yeah, and I hadn't even gone on a run that day, so I was like, oh, I'm gonna send one later, and then it didn't work out. But I thought, since I'm just going on a walk today, I'll film a good chunk of it, and then I'll kind of stitch on a second part, because I'm not going to film the whole thing. This is going to be a bit of a long walk, but I'll send you the stat or whatever. I don't have my watch. I forgot my watch. But I also wanted to respond to some of the things that you're talking about. And the first thing I wanted to touch on was, I think I experienced the same thing with breathing, heavy breathing. It's a big boy problem. It's a big person problem. I've always had moments where I'm in public or I'm at work and I have to do something that's a little strenuous, and it brings out some heavy breathing in me, and I kind of just have to, and I suppress it, and I almost practically hold my breath, but then I realize now I have to take an even bigger breath because I've been holding my breath. And honestly, I think it kind of just stems from such a heavy amount of self-awareness between us and our relationship in the world, and how we kind of take up space naturally. And it's I think we both, part of us doesn't want to care, but there definitely is an associated shame with the idea that oh my gosh, I'm breathing so loud, these people must hate me, which isn't really fully honest to yourself. That it doesn't matter. But it definitely does get a lot easier as you keep going. That is a very, very true statement, is that it gets much, much easier as you get up and you move every day. When I started running for the first time at just on my own, doing road training, it's I was 17, and just trying running out. It wasn't even something that I fully understood. I kind of just had the mindset oh, running's running. You go outside and you run. And I didn't really understand pacing. I didn't understand, proper technique. And I kind of was just run a mile, and the moment I hit a mile, I would just stop, because I'd also be pushing myself like way too hard, and I'd injure myself. I'd give myself like an F up the foot, or I might like pull a muscle or just like strain something, and then I'd be in my chair playing like World of Warcraft or Fortnite all the time for like another week, being like, oh well, I'm injured, I have to recover. But the reality is, they say motion is lotion, rest is rest. Which really just means like, you gotta get up, you gotta get out, because the more you sit, the more your body kind of builds up these acids and, things that make it harder to then start moving again. And I mean, look at every old person ever in history. Like, the moment people stop moving, like walking, getting around, picking things up, the moment people decide to just sit in a chair or lay in a bed every single day without getting outside, getting some fresh air, getting some sun, and getting their legs moving and their heart working and their lungs working, they die. They all die. It's immediately downhill. Even in surgery, it's like almost all surgeries, except for something like hip replacements and knee replacements and like all like lower body stuff, it's super important to get the patient out of the bed the next day. Like day 1, day 2, yes, there's like recovery that has to happen, and they can't move a ton, but like getting them up, getting blood flowing, it helps reduce inflammation, it helps the healing factor, it helps push those acids out, the lactic acid, carbon dioxide. It helps get it out of your body, the buildup, and helps you replace it with oxygen and fresh blood that helps those muscles regrow. But like, it is also very true that making those choices to be sedentary, I have seen a lot of bodybuilders online, a lot of people that have lost, like, they're like, oh, I've lost 60 pounds, I've lost 80 pounds, I've lost 100 pounds over the last year, the last few months even. And one of the biggest changes they made is the exact same change you're making right now, which is choosing to every day get up and walk just a little bit further, and a little bit longer. And honestly, before you even know it, you'll be able to walk 30 minutes without any extra strain on your system. And you'll realize that a lot of those, fears and insecurities and ideas about who you are and what you're capable of kind of just fly out the window. I never expected myself to be somebody who could run 6 miles. I always have said I can't run that far. It will take forever for me to run that far. And then I decided to just try it. And I had a friend. That was a really big help. I had a friend that I was able to run with. But we took it so slow. And we probably ran like a 14-mile pace, which is super duper slow. Not super duper slow. But like, it's definitely not super fast. It's definitely just like a little more than like a walking pace. And it was the first time trying to go that far. I had only ever gone 3.11 miles, which is a 5K. And, you know, I'd kind of just always hit that goal and stopped. But what we decided to do was just kind of go out further and further away from the home. And then we kind of came across like a nice little trail by a park. We ran that. And then we had to, because we were far out and we were ready to get back, we just were running back to the house. We were forced to go back because we had gone so far out. And it was like, okay, well, now we gotta spend the time. And I didn't even make it all 6 miles. I probably ran for 4 miles, 3.8 miles. But 3.8 miles was still further than I'd ever run before. So, you know, it's kind of just like, big whoop. But I actually had felt like, oh, big whoop. This is a big whoop. I had done something I'd never done before, and it really stuck with me. But we ran so slow, I could talk, and I could breathe really easily, and I could think, and, you know, I was able to crack a lot of jokes and goof around and have a lot of fun while I was just running, doing something that honestly I, up until that point, really like hated and did not look forward to. But I kind of just had to change my mindset around it and be like, you know what? I can do a 6-mile run, a 6.2 mile run, and hit that 10K. And then I did it. And then 2 days later, my friend wasn't even able to be here, but I took the exact same path we had gone, and I just kept it pushing, and I made it all the way back to the house. And I was using skills that I had slowly developed over time. Most importantly, you know, going slow and pacing myself like I hadn't done in the beginning, where I was trying to sprint through a mile and be as fast as I possibly could, because I had this idea that if I didn't go fast, you know, I was a chump, even though I had just started this thing, I just started this skill. And I maintained a good pace that was definitely not fast, and I made it 6.2 miles. And since then, it's become a lot easier because I've just changed my perspective. And it's great because I also am able to, I've done it so often now, I'm able to recognize the signs from my body when I feel shitty, you know, when I'm like, oh my God, I'm running too fast, slow down. And then I do, and sometimes I feel a little shame to it. I'm like, I really wish I could be faster. I really wish running at a 9-minute pace didn't make me as winded as it does. But a 10-minute 30 pace, you know, maintained through a full 3 miles is still something that I had never done until Tuesday. And then I did that. Because before it was always, I'd start at like a 10-minute pace, but I'd end at like a 12-minute pace. And again, it's all skills that I learned over time from consistently running. And now I'm at a crosswalk. But I'm going on a nice long walk, so you'll be here with me through the whole thing. But, yeah, the truth is there really is no shame to be had from just walking and getting exercise, no matter how far it is or how long you end up walking. You just got to keep doing it, you know. And I don't know, but it'll really get easier. I've fully committed myself to just trying to lose weight in the healthiest way possible. And so I've kind of shifted my focus into like getting a decent calorie deficit and eating proper. And basically trying to get 200 grams of protein, which follows the 1 gram per pound every day, where 200 grams is based on my goal weight, my current goal weight of 200 pounds. And I know that I'm gonna get there for sure, but I'm not trying to like I'm not trying to do all the weight training anymore, because, you know, even since like 8th grade, you know, when I was living over there in Oregon with you and Dad, I was, you know, doing like shot put, and I was able to, I was one of the bigger kids that was doing it, and I was able to throw some weight. I was like for that season, I was first place at almost every regional, until, you know, I ran into somebody who was stronger and leaner and able to do better than me because they had done a lot more training. Which kind of was just the first time that I'd really experienced competition, or just generally a person who was in the same skill as me, but they had gone and done hard work to match their training and their talent and their innate ability, while I had kind of just been relying on learning the actual skill of shot putting, while really just relying on my natural strength and size to accomplish what I was doing. And that's kind of a thing that I ran into a lot, like through high school, was that, you know, I didn't really have the willpower to commit to something and work really hard and sacrifice my, you know, personal time of playing video games. Sorry, it's a busy morning. And sacrificing my personal time to like where I wanted to just play video games and not even really do homework. And over time, you know, those who truly cared and dedicated themselves to things like sports got better, and I definitely stagnated, and I didn't work as hard with my drumming as I could have, and I stagnated. And I kind of had to come to terms with the fact that, like, we're always going to be people more capable, more competent, better at something, better at a skill. And that was at like 15. I was, a bit arrogant, thinking that I was one of the better people out there, but really I'm pretty average and mediocre when it comes down to all that. But then, I at least committed myself to drumming and getting better and practicing and learning, and I did do that, and I still do that every day, but it's the same thing with running, and like exercise. But I've always been naturally, innately strong. When you put on a lot of weight, and when you've been like over 200 pounds since you were 11 years old, your body is just constantly wearing a weighted vest, and you're going to develop, muscles, especially like being that heavy and then going through puberty. And, I was still very weak, and I still am pretty weak. I can barely do more than, I really can't do more than 20 push-ups in one go. But every day I do those push-ups, it gets a lot better. Sorry, I'm like trailing off, but what I was saying is I've committed myself to eating in a deficit, not too much. I think my maintenance is like 2370. It's like my basal metabolic rate. And I'll do that and eat my 200 grams of protein and still keep myself in like a deficit of basically I'll go for like either 2,000 calories for the day or whatnot, and that's obviously with exercise. I'll probably eat like close to 2,600 calories in the day, but with the exercise I've earned, it kind of negates that, and it brings it back down to like overall I've eaten 2,000, so I'm still under. And not really worrying about weight training and doing all the big things, the flashy things that they kind of like advertise online, these like influencers who are just gym rats, which I love gym rats. I want to be in the gym every day. And it's also kind of just like a shame thing, and a good that's a good example of the expectation of progress and the reality of progress, and that valley of disappointment where progress doesn't happen when we expect it to, and that leads to quitting. That definitely happens a lot in the gym, so taking a break from that, but focusing on getting a lot of cardio and developing that skill, because I also have my goal of getting into a fire department. And I mean, kind of everybody gives like a different benchmark, but one benchmark that I trust is 5K in 24 minutes. Be able to run 24-minute 5K, so that's like 8-minute miles. Otherwise, they said if you can't run that, you're not gonna be able to keep up. You're not gonna be able to keep up with the extra young bucks, those 18, 19-year-olds straight out of high school, getting their EMT and getting signed on with fire. So I kind of just realized that I've left myself behind and thrown my obligations out of the window. But I know that by maintaining this diet and focusing on cardio and focusing on just losing the weight and doing some body weight workouts, all the push-ups and pull-ups and core, I will still have a lot more muscle naturally than, you know, I would if I just ran every day and didn't worry about weight training and didn't worry about my protein and worry about my calories and worry about body weight. I know that if I just did cardio, I might lose a little bit more muscle than I would be comfortable with. So, yeah, naturally, I don't know. Peep the shoes. Had to take a break because, man, that was like 30 minutes straight of just filming. But I also wanted to mention shirts. You know, I definitely noticed when I was at my heaviest at 270 that shirts, my clothes just weren't fitting, you know, as well. And I really didn't want to resign myself to the idea that I was going to have to go up a size, you know. I had been like an extra large in every shirt since I was 14. And even back then when I was 14, I was trying to wear larges, you know, because that's what I was when I was 12, 13. But I had to go up to an XL at some point, and I had always been an XL. And then within the last, I don't know how long, I had to go up to double XL. And to me, that really sucked. And then I dropped 30 pounds and I went down to 240, which I'm at now because I got down to 240 and then stopped working as hard towards losing weight. Like doing what I had done to get to 240. And I had, gone to Target and I bought this shirt that I still have, and I think it's a large or it's an XL, but I think it's a large. And I was like, this is big enough. I will wear this. It was a nice shirt, white shirt, plain on the front, a little bit of design on the back, you know, nothing crazy. I was like, I like this shirt. And I don't know if maybe it even just shrunk a little, but it's not too tight. It's just too short. And honestly, I can wear a shirt that's a little tight, but long, that at least doesn't like ride up and stay up. You know, I can do that. I can wear a tighter shirt that's just long, but I cannot wear any shirt that is basically just a free crop top. And that's what it was. And it sucks because I don't like getting rid of shirts, given that I really don't buy myself shirts. So I only have like 6 shirts, but I wore it out the other day and I knew, I was like, it's gonna ride up. So I had to put on an A shirt underneath, you know, a wife beater. And then I bought this really nice, you know, little like corduroy black coat. And we went to IKEA, you know, me and my wife, Val, as you know. And we were walking around, and I normally would like take off a coat because I run hot, especially indoors. But I found myself keeping the coat on because in my mind, it was a crucial piece of this puzzle to allow me to wear this shirt that didn't fit me anymore. And as we walked around, I would notice that the whole last 2 minutes, the shirt had been ridden up to here, and I had to pull it down over the A shirt. And with the jacket on, no one could even see the back of my shirt, which is where the only part of the design was. So to them, I was just wearing a white t-shirt with an undershirt, and that white t-shirt was way too small. And then I was just wearing my coat over top inside. So, but I realized that there really is no standard manufacturing guidelines for what they're allowed to call, small, medium, large, XL. Some places, some shirts you buy that are large or XL, and they're big and they're baggy. And some places you buy, whatever, and it's a size too small. And I think it's kind of a gamble for most Americans, because most Americans are fat or overweight. Yeah. Also, in response to what you were saying about hypochondria, which I think with your anxiety has also maybe developed a little bit of agoraphobia, even though you leave the house, you like going out, you go out with your friends, but you don't really do it as often as maybe somebody else would. I'm not saying that it actually is, but yeah, hypochondria is definitely really hard to deal with, especially when I feel like, in our family, like I was saying on the phone the other day, there just seems like there's a lot more kind of unspoken medical conditions. I didn't know that, our mother had, seborrheic dermatitis, which is just really bad dandruff, until I was 14, 15. But then I didn't know that there's ways to treat it that aren't just tea tree oil, I use a good little scalp scrubber that you put on your hand, and you can psh, psh. And I use zinc shampoo twice a week, and that's one of those 2 times rinse twice, which I guess I didn't even know all shampoos you're supposed to use once, rinse, and then use again. That's how you're supposed to use most shampoos. I didn't know that. That's crazy. I thought it was just the medical ones. But yeah, it's hard when it feels like you really don't know your body. It's easy to feel like you're falling apart when any sort of discomfort comes your way. But I think you're doing the right thing by, again, getting up, getting out, and kind of moving through the aches and the pains. And they will come, and your feet aren't going to feel very good, and your legs are going to be sore. But, I've always wanted to be lean. I've always said, man, I wish I could just be leaner. I wish I could just be a little skinnier. And ever since I started running, I've slowly started to develop what I feel is develop more muscle, but really it's that I'm losing fat on my thighs, around my quads. And so I have much more defined quads, which is like very exciting because I then find myself like looking in the mirror, amazed with the fact that I can see one of my quad muscles, and I'm like flexing both legs, and I'm like pointing at my wife being like, oh, 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 look. So I don't know, baby steps. It's taken me months to even get to that point. And I also was doing Muay Thai for like 3 months at that point. And that really helps with like muscle development and weight loss. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm almost to the top. I don't even know how far I've made it, but I know I've been out for more than like almost an hour. And then I'll show you me getting back into the neighborhood, and I want to make breakfast. And I'm going to show you what I make for breakfast. It'll be a quick one, but I'll be cooking for Val and I. And yeah, it'll be delicious. See you in a second. Coming back into the neighborhood. That's the house. I'm gonna throw in the video of me making breakfast too here in a second. Okay, so here's the breakfast for the morning. Broccoli, I'm gonna finely chop. 1 potato, I've got 2, but the other one's for my wife. Chicken breast, nicely seasoned. Make sure you really press in that seasoning every time you season. 2 eggs. I'm gonna do a 1/2 cup of Good Culture low-fat cottage cheese. It's only 80 calories per 1/2 cup, which is exactly what I need to mix into the eggs, scramble them, and make them extra moist. I've got the potatoes diced, and then I've got a pot with maybe a cup and a half of water, basically just enough to cover it. I salted the water as well. Going in and just breaking those up. I'm gonna cover that. And then, all right, so now the water has cooked off on these potatoes. So I'm gonna use some avocado oil. It's a good one. Good high smoke point. And I would say that was about like 2-3 tablespoons worth of oil.
I think the potatoes are definitely gonna need it. I'm gonna throw in some lollies. And oil. And you'll see there's a lot of the brown stuff building up. This is just starch. I'll just scrape that.
Got broccoli chopped out. This is probably, I'd say like 2 or 3 cups of broccoli. And then I got 2 eggs mixed with 1/2 cup of cottage cheese. That cottage cheese is really just gonna help keep it moist, and it also adds an extra like 15 grams of protein. So these 2 eggs become like 40 eggs. Listen to these potatoes. Glass. Now I've got the chicken breast in the pan. Got it cooking on like a medium heat. And that one stick. Keep throwing that on there to make sure I get a nice even sear. Chicken's ready for a flip for sure. Oh yeah, that's a good crust. I'm gonna let that keep cooking. Finished product.